Happy Halloween. I don't know. Each time somebody has said that to me today, I got giddy. I'm like, you too. Happy Halloween. But yeah, I figured this is the best time. This is the day to get this video out and just sort of share more of my spoiler thoughts on Halloween Ends. I watched it like quite a bit of times on Peacock, and I did go see it again in theaters. Like I saw it in theaters twice. And yeah, I'm still sort of in the middle, and I'm more on the positive, but I just wanted to sort of address why I feel like it's not really the weakest or the worst movie in the franchise. Like, for starters, like how they like how, people are very upset with Michael being not as strong as he was, or the, like the powerhouse that he was in the previous two movies in the trilogy, and in the first one. But yeah, I mean, the way they handled it, I do not like the idea of that in the movie, but the way they handled it could have been a whole lot worse. And that's not what I had in mind. This is not what I meant when I told my friends who are also looking forward to this movie, like, this is the last movie. They gotta fuck Michael up. They have to fuck him up. I want him fucked up. That's not what I had in mind. This is not what I meant. But I don't know. I mean, like, it's sort of like, like, I can see why people hate the route that they went with, like, where he's not in the movie as much. But imagine if this were to, if they went with their original plan, which is where it took place on the same night of 2018, and we know that Laurie was in critical condition after being stabbed in the stomach, and she had to stay in the hospital throughout Halloween Kills. I mean, she tried to leave, and that attempt failed. Yeah, like, imagine if they were to go have their throwdown, and she would very not likely get get that send off that that I feel that the character deserved. Like, and I feel like a lot of you would be like, what kind of a showdown was that? Laurie was weak as hell. Like, I mean, come on. Like, or they either that, or they would have said, I don't believe that Laurie, could be physically fit to fight Michael Myers for one last time on that same night when she couldn't get out of the hospital in Halloween Kills. And you see, you people would be criticizing that. I mean, I'm just saying, am I wrong about that? But yeah, I can see why people were upset when Corey, like, when he easily knocked out Michael, and then he took his mask and stuff. But they're making it seem like he just knocked him down and that was it. I mean, Michael fought back a bit. I mean, like Michael, got a good body slam on him, like, before Corey was able to, temporarily knock him out, and and then get the mask away from him and stuff like that. I mean, like, it could have been worse. Michael could have just handed him the mask. I mean, like, I would have hated that. I would have been as livid as everybody else was when Corey knocked him out. But I mean, like, I'm sure there were some people, like, back in when Friday the 13th, the final chapter came out. Spoiler warning. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it, but spoiler warning if you haven't. Of how, like, Tommy killed Jason. I'm sure there's some people who saw that movie and they were like, how did this little punk ass kid, how was he able to kill this hulking, this really dangerous serial killer who can crush your skull with one hand? How did this little punk ass kid get the upper hand on that serial killer? How did he get the upper hand on that same motherfucker who can crush your head with one hand? Tell me. I mean, some people, a lot of you know how, because, like, he dropped his guard, he was able to look like him and mess with his mentality. But yeah, there's some people who probably thought, how did this punk ass kid beat that, that unstoppable killer? Just saying. And I understand why Corey and Allison, why they kind of fell for each other so easily, and where there were sort of like kindred spirits, like, where you can see similarities in Corey, like of how, the town, like, sort of treats them like they're nobody, or they're like they're outcasts, like, especially Laurie, like, where I'm sure Laurie can identify with him to some degree, where they feel like, okay, this is Laurie's fault for Michael Myers, like, bloodbath and whatnot. And we all know that it really isn't. I mean, people just want to find somebody to blame. And also I also noticed that Corey is in his early 20s and Michael was in his early 20s in 1978. And when he went on his killing spree, he went after like teenagers who are on their way out of high school. So there's sort of like an echo of the first one in this movie. And also when Laurie gets caught, with where Allison sort of catches him, Laurie, and after Corey kills himself or tries to kill himself, and then Allison's like, "What did you do to him?" And then she stormed off, and then she sits in the corner crying, very much like how she did at the ending of the first movie. And also another callback in that same scene is when she notices that Michael is in the house, when she saw that the door's wide open and the wind's blowing. Same thing in the first movie when she went back into the Doyle's house and then she locked the door and then she saw that the window was open and the wind's blowing and she's just like, oh no. Yeah, that's a cool little callback. And speaking of that, I did warm up to Corey's bloodbath a lot. I mean, I did like how he wasn't like Michael Myers really. I mean, he was, but it was more like a personal vendetta, where he was on going out, to basically get revenge on people who, wronged him. There was the high school kids, and then there was his mother, there was the DJ, and then Laurie was on his list next. I mean, when it was Laurie's turn, he quickly became Laurie's bitch. He quickly became his bitch. I mean, that is hilarious. Not only does Corey remind me of, I noticed Arnie Cunningham and Cunningham and Christine, but he also reminds me of, a lot of people have mentioned this, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it too. Roy from Friday the 13th, Part 5, The New Beginning. Yeah, spoiler warning, they had an imposter Jason in that movie. So, yeah, so he's basically like Roy. And not to mention that he had a blowtorch where he torched, one of the teenagers, he torched, the boy's mouth. Oh, what a brutal kill. Where it was out of focus and then you saw the blowtorch in his mouth. It's kind of like how when Roy put a flare, a lit flare, into somebody's mouth in Friday the 13th, Part 5. A cool little callback there. And also, I did like how, I did enjoy the fight with Laurie and Michael. It could have, I just wish it was longer. Just a little bit longer, that's me. And people criticize it a little too much. I mean, okay, I mean, yeah, where Michael was so easily beaten by Laurie and yada, yada, yada. I mean, in comparison to the final showdown in Halloween H2O, the only attack that Michael succeeded at with Laurie is when he scratched her arm like he did in the first movie. That was it. Michael couldn't touch her after that, or before that, or after that. Every other successful attack was Laurie beating his ass. Michael would try to fight back, and then he would miss, and then Laurie would get him, and then she kept getting more hits on him than Michael did. Michael got one, and Laurie got a dozen hits on him. And then in Halloween Ends, it went back and forth. Michael got the upper hand at times. I mean, Michael did more damage to Laurie than he did in Halloween H2O. I'm just saying. And I did love how this, I mean, say what you want about the movie. I loved how this was the send-off and the ending that the character Laurie Strode deserved. I mean, she's been through hell for 44 years. And then for everybody to see her get rid of their boogeyman and her boogeyman and to throw him in the grinder. I mean, I feel like people have, I feel like she has lifted Haddonfield out of darkness and sort of gave them a bit of a clean slate, where, okay, look at that. You thought you've been afraid of him being out there. He's here. He's gone. Look, he's in the grinder. He is no more. I feel like that was a very ballsy ending where they gave it that happy ending, good triumphs over evil kind of feel to it. And I applaud them for doing that. I mean, I have mixed feelings, but overall, I'm more on the positive end. Yeah, I don't like that Michael was weaker, but I understand why he was. And some people speculated that he was gonna be weak and like for a brief moment in Halloween Kills, but why his hand was bandaged up, thinking that somebody else did it, but he did it himself. And then in the other movies, there are other movies where he was able to go out and fight again because he was treated. Like in part 5, where he was very weakened and wounded from being shot, being all shot up, and he fell down to Minecraft and stuff. And then the old guy like took care of him for a year. He was very weak, like when the old guy found him and he passed out, and then he took care of him, and then he found out the hard way that was a big mistake. And then with the Curse of Michael Myers, where the cult basically took him away, I guess. I mean, like, I prefer that we didn't see it, but in the producer's cut, I have a bigger issue with seeing the cult members tossing him in the back of a truck. And then people are talking about, oh, Corey got the body slam. Corey beat Michael so easily. Corey beat him easily. But I had a bigger issue with Michael being thrown in the back of a truck by the cult members than that. That's just me. So I'm glad that didn't make it in the theatrical cut. I'm so glad that didn't happen. I'm just like, come on. But yeah, those are my like thoughts that I can think of so far for Halloween Ends. And I can't think of anything else. But yeah, Corey kind of reminds me of how he would be more fitting for a Ghostface killer, like in another Scream movie, as opposed to the next Michael Myers. And if they were to do that whole thing, like where they could have another movie where, okay, now Corey's gonna be the next killer, blubby. I feel like people would hate that more than Halloween Ends, and it would do worse in like box office numbers. It would be like the newest low for the franchise, and then it's like, okay, you didn't learn from Halloween Ends, and then look at that. Now, have you learned from this? Like I don't want that to happen, and I'm glad that it most likely will not happen. We'll get a whole new timeline, or get a sequel to another timeline that we had before. Something like that. As far as this timeline goes, Michael Myers is dead. Just like in the Rob Zombie one, where he's dead. Like, both the remake version and the OG version is dead. They can bring back the OG back. They can bring the OG back in another movie. If a whole nother timeline, like the Thorn Trilogy or something, before it was even the Thorn Trilogy. And the Halloween 5 thing, like I said, like that was before they even came up with the idea of a Thorn cult being, like giving them power and all that crap. You know what I mean? But yeah, those are my thoughts on the movie and how I feel that the drastic criticisms that this movie is getting doesn't really stick as much as people are trying to claim that they do. But I'm just trying to address how I feel that they don't. That's just me. I don't know if maybe you guys agree with me, maybe you don't. But yeah, I hope you guys have a fun Halloween. Like you can watch horror movies or go out trick-or-treating, go out and get dressed up. I'd love to watch horror movies, definitely. And yeah, so have a fun Halloween, happy Halloween, and see you guys in another video. Take care.